Suddenly, rumors started swirling when Chuck Norris spoke out about Bruce Lee's final days, revealing details that nobody saw coming. For years, questions have surrounded Lee's unexpected passing, and now a first-hand account changes what many thought they knew. Until now, most stories stayed the same, but Chuck admitted there was a side of Bruce Lee that the public never saw, something hidden beneath the action and confidence. According to Chuck, the energy during their last conversations felt different, and there are memories that haunted him in silence. Most surprisingly, Chuck confessed that Lee hinted at feeling unwell in the weeks before his collapse, but brushed it off, wanting to appear unstoppable. Without warning, the story takes a turn as Chuck recalled a mysterious visitor who contacted Bruce at night, filling him with a deep sense of worry. These moments revealed clues in Lee's mental state and health, and Chuck is sure these factors played a much larger role than anyone believed at the time. Now, with each fresh detail, the picture of Bruce Lee's fate becomes more complicated than any simple explanation, pushing old theories aside and opening the door to a truth that had never been spoken aloud. Since the day Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris first met at the All-American Karate Open Championship in 1967, their connection was immediate. Both men already held reputations as formidable martial artists, but what drew them together was something beyond skill or fame. It was a genuine curiosity and fascination with each other's approach to hand-to-hand combat and martial philosophy. They spent hours talking after their initial meeting, sharing not just techniques, but also their personal reasons for honing their skills. Conversations between the two often spilled over into demonstrations, each eager to show and exchange moves, stances, and theories about what worked best in a real fight. Their friendship quickly deepened because they both respected how hard the other had trained, and how much thought went into every move they made. Both men were interested in not just defending themselves or gaining points in competition, but in mastering their own bodies and minds. As time went on, Bruce and Chuck kept in regular contact, often training together and learning from each other whenever their schedules allowed. Their friendship wasn't built just on physical prowess. They laughed, challenged each other, and offered advice outside of the dojo as well. They discussed film projects, the evolving image of martial arts in popular culture, and what it meant to be seen as a role model around the world. Bruce admired Chuck's quiet determination, while Chuck was open about how much he learned from Bruce's fluid style and unconventional ideas. Stories about their sparring sessions suggest a mix of intensity and fun, as neither man backed down from a challenge, but each valued humility on the mat. Friendship for them meant testing boundaries, pushing each other to explore beyond traditional methods, and always sharing respect for the spirit behind each punch or kick. Even as they achieved greater levels of fame individually, their connection remained strong, setting an example for what true mutual respect and camaraderie look like, especially in a field sometimes marked by rivalry and ego. After many days of dedicated training, Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris met in Lee's backyard to trade skills and knowledge. Both ardent students of martial arts, they respected each other's dedication and were eager to learn. Their practice sessions were intense, sometimes stretching late into the afternoon, with each martial artist bringing his strengths to the partnership. For Bruce Lee, this was an opportunity to expand his already impressive repertoire. Until these sessions, Lee had largely steered clear of high kicking, preferring techniques that kept his movements compact and efficient. Norris, however, was skilled in high kicks, having mastered them through years of karate and taekwondo practice. During their training, Norris began to demonstrate these high kicks, patiently breaking down the mechanics and strategy behind using them in combat. Lee, always open to new methods, quickly grasped the value of Norris' approach. He dedicated himself to refining his balance, flexibility, and power for these kicks, practicing tirelessly until they began to feel natural. Gradually, Lee worked the new kicks into his routines, testing them against different fighting scenarios. These backyard sessions not only improved Lee's high kicks, but also altered his understanding of combat range and tactical possibilities. Both men adjusted their styles, challenging and supporting each other's growth. This relentless exchange of ideas and techniques led to a mutual enhancement of their skills, particularly transforming Lee's outlook on the advantages of high kicks, which became a more dominant part of his performances and fights afterward. After months of training and preparation, Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris stood face to face in the heart of Rome's ancient Colosseum, ready to create one of the most legendary scenes in martial arts film history. Their friendship and collaboration were at the center of the memorable fight in the film Way of the Dragon, with Bruce Lee not only starring but also working behind the camera as the director. The intensity between the two fighters can be felt from the moment they start circling each other, both displaying unique martial arts styles refined by years of practice and discipline. With the grand historical backdrop, every movement was carefully planned to show the skill and raw physical power of both men. The sequence makes each blow feel real, every struggle practical, as Lee and Norris deliver kicks, punches, and counterattacks that keep viewers glued to their seats. The choreography built tension and excitement not just through fighting, but through the clear respect between both martial artists, turning an action scene into a conversation with bodies and spirit. As the clash grew more intense, Lee's quick, fluid moves contrasted with Norris' strength and precision, drawing the audience into their silent duel. Each gesture told its own story, blending tradition with modern techniques, highlighting the quick adaptability of Lee and the unyielding spirit of Norris. The Colosseum's ancient stones gave the battle an almost mythic quality, turning what could have been a typical fight into a scene of drama, artistry, and skill. To this day, many fans and critics agree that the fight between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris in Way of the Dragon remains unmatched for its authenticity, excitement, and respect for martial arts, setting a high standard for all action movies that followed. Interestingly, Bruce Lee always kept an open mind when it came to learning and improving his martial arts skills. Even though he had firm beliefs about his fighting style, Lee was never too proud to learn from others. In fact, he used to avoid high-kicking techniques, believing that low kicks were more practical for real combat situations. However, after seeing Chuck Norris demonstrate his powerful high kicks, Lee changed his approach. He watched Norris closely, studied his movements, and asked him questions to understand the methods behind those techniques. Lee respected Norris' skill and admitted that there was something valuable to gain. Within 6 months, through hard practice and observation, he managed to make his own high kicks every bit as sharp and effective as Norris's. Lee's willingness to learn, adapt, and incorporate new methods from others showed that he was not stuck in his ways. Instead, he believed that progress depended on continuous discovery and adjustment, and that real mastery means always staying humble enough to listen and learn, regardless of your own status or achievements. For many fans of martial arts, Jeet Kune Do stands out as a game changer. Bruce Lee developed this philosophy because he believed martial arts had become too rigid and stuck in tradition. Instead, he taught that a fighter should use whatever works best at any given moment, adapting and flowing, rather than following rules just for the sake of tradition. Jeet Kune Do is all about keeping things simple and direct. Lee wanted his students, and anyone who studied his teachings, to avoid wasting energy on fancy moves that don't get results. Instead, the priority is on practical self-defense, being efficient, and ending a fight quickly and effectively. Unlike many styles that focus on memorizing strict forms or routines, Jeet Kune Do is built on freedom, encouraging people to mix and match techniques from different martial arts if that helps them in real situations. This openness, along with the determination to keep things as clear and basic as possible, helped set Jeet Kune Do apart from other martial arts. Because of these ideas, Bruce Lee's method influenced many martial artists, including Norris, who admired the focus on adaptability and real-world results. Jeet Kune Do continues to attract people who want a martial art that fits their individual needs, rather than forcing everyone into the same mold, making sure they're equipped for whatever comes their way. Throughout the development of Jeet Kune Do, the interception concept became one of its most distinctive features. Interception is not just about blocking, but about meeting the opponent's attack even before it can gain power. This means that instead of waiting for an attack to arrive and then reacting, a practitioner of Jeet Kune Do intercepts, cutting off the opponent's movement at the source. To use this idea well, quick thinking is needed, so the fighter must be able to predict the opponent's move as it begins. Fast reactions are also required, since any hesitation might mean the difference between stopping the attack and getting hit. Timing is another key element in interception. Good timing lets you connect your own defensive move with the rhythm of your opponent's attack. If you act too soon or too late, the interception will be less effective or might not work at all. The method works best when the defender has trained enough to recognize the smallest hints of an incoming attack. By making interception so central, Jeet Kune Do teaches that stopping an attack before it starts can often be the safest and most efficient strategy in a fight. The idea is to collapse the gap between defense and offense, blending them so smoothly that a block becomes a strike, and a strike becomes a block, all in the same motion. Since Jeet Kune Do goes beyond simple fighting techniques, Bruce Lee saw it as a broad approach to living every day. In his view, the true lesson of Jeet Kune Do was to keep your mind open and never limit yourself to a single perspective. He encouraged people to take inspiration from many sources, try things for themselves, and find what really works for them as individuals. Lee believed that learning should stop at just copying others or sticking to old rules. Instead, he wanted everyone to learn from their own experiences and use that knowledge to shape their own style, both in martial arts and in life. With flexibility at the heart of Jeet Kune Do, Lee always talked about adapting to change. If a certain move or idea fits only some situations, you should be ready to adjust, not get stuck on it. Imagination and trying new things were key. Lee often said that creativity means finding your own path, not just following someone else's. This mindset applied to every choice, not only to how someone fights or trains. For Lee, self-discovery was a journey. He believed people always have a chance to improve themselves if they keep learning, stay flexible, and are willing to grow. That didn't mean discarding tradition altogether, but it did mean questioning it and making it work for you, personally. Lee trusted that if someone puts in the effort to understand themselves and their circumstances, they can bring out the best in themselves. Through Jeet Kune Do, the message was clear: be open, keep changing, get creative, and never stop learning from your own journey. Despite his incredible skill and strength, Bruce Lee struggled with major back problems for years. Everything started in 1968 when he suffered an injury that caused ongoing pain and eventually put him in the hospital. Although specialists told him to rest and allow his body time to heal, Lee's determination made him continue exercising and performing high-intensity martial arts training. He was unwilling to accept limits, continuing to push himself physically even as his condition worsened. Over time, this relentless approach forced his body into even more trouble, leading to more pain and greater health risks. Fast forward to the night of his death. Lee's health had already been compromised by his history of injuries and rigorous routines. He experienced a headache and took medicine to ease the pain. However, this new medication combined with other drugs he was already taking due to his health concerns. The interaction of these drugs and his weakened condition led to cerebral edema, which is swelling of the brain. Sadly, this complication proved fatal, ending his life suddenly and leaving the world shocked by the loss of such a young, talented star. Meanwhile, cerebral edema stands out as a serious medical condition in which excess fluid accumulates in the brain. This causes the tissues in the brain to swell, and as the pressure inside the skull increases, the brain becomes more and more compressed. When this happens, brain cells often struggle to work as they should because the swelling can press on delicate tissues and disrupt normal signals in the brain. Blood flow may become restricted, which leads to less oxygen reaching parts of the brain, making it even harder for those cells to survive. If the swelling is severe enough and continues without treatment, it can threaten life because the pressure can actually stop the brain from controlling vital functions like breathing and heart rate. To help people with cerebral edema, doctors may try to reduce the swelling with medication, drain fluid, or use other treatments to lower the pressure. Sometimes, the signs of cerebral edema, like confusion, headache, vomiting, or changes in consciousness, appear quickly, making it critical to act fast. Without fast and effective treatment, the increased pressure and lack of oxygen can lead to permanent brain damage or even death. Long-lasting effects may depend on how quickly help is given and the underlying cause of the edema. Since the brain controls everything in the body, even small changes in pressure from swelling can lead to big differences in how someone moves, speaks, understands, or remembers things. Yet every day, Bruce Lee followed a high-protein diet to support his intense physical activities, making sure his meals fueled his demanding lifestyle. He added supplements like ginseng and royal jelly to his routine, seeking a natural boost to his energy and performance. Water was also a vital part of his daily intake. He believed that drinking a lot of water helped him flush out toxins and keep his body in peak condition. Even with these careful choices, Lee did not let his body rest when it was needed. Doctors and friends advised him to slow down and give himself time to recover after injuries, but Lee refused. He trained relentlessly, pushing his body far beyond its limits because he was obsessed with being the best. This drive for perfection often meant training through pain and exhaustion, and he ignored repeated warnings that this might be damaging. As a result, his stubbornness in training took a harsh toll on his health. Even as he struggled with various health issues, he refused to ease up on his regime or change his approach. believing that rest was a sign of weakness. Lee's commitment to his physical goals led him to keep moving forward, even when it put his well-being at risk, and those close to him worried that he was sacrificing his health for his relentless drive. Over the years, Norris has spoken many times about Bruce Lee, sharing stories and reflections that show how deeply he respected him. In interviews, Norris has described Lee as both a legend and a true genius, saying that Bruce Lee forever changed the world of martial arts and movies. He often explains how Lee brought a new kind of energy, discipline, and creativity to martial arts, how people all over the world became inspired not just to watch kung fu films, but to learn martial arts themselves. Norris remembers Lee's skills and intense commitment, often referencing Lee's unmatched speed and focus, how he could move and react faster and more precisely than anyone Norris had ever met. When asked about martial arts and movies, Norris gives Lee credit for blending powerful moves with storytelling, which shaped how these films would be made from then on. In many of his public statements, Norris does not limit his praise to Bruce Lee's fighting ability. He talks about Lee's vision for martial arts as something much bigger. He says Lee had a way of making martial arts about inner strength, discipline, and breaking boundaries of race and culture. Norris has recalled that Bruce Lee was always inventing, not just following the old ways, but creating something new, and letting others see a different side of martial arts. He speaks clearly on the point that Lee's impact goes beyond his movies or fighting style, reaching into the lives of the people Lee has inspired and mentored. Beyond his public tributes, Norris has talked about staying close to Lee's family over the years. Norris has said that he kept a particular bond with Lee's son Brandon and supported him in his own journey as an actor and martial artist. In stories shared in articles and documentaries, Norris describes the warmth and trust he felt with Lee's family and how he wanted to honor Bruce Lee's legacy by being a supportive friend. Norris suggests that their relationship was not just about martial arts, but built on a foundation of respect and shared experience, continuing after Bruce Lee's death by helping his son and keeping Bruce Lee's memory alive through kind words and genuine care. After Bruce Lee's remarkable legacy in martial arts and film, his son Brandon Lee followed closely in his footsteps, choosing a similar path of martial arts and acting. Brandon quickly gained attention for his talent both on and off the screen, reflecting much of the charisma and skill reminiscent of his father. While filming The Crow in 1993, a tragic accident occurred. During one of the scenes, a prop gun that was supposed to be safe was loaded with a fragment left in the barrel from previous filming. When the gun was fired at Brandon as part of the scene, the fragment was discharged along with the blank, striking Brandon and causing a fatal injury. This shocking incident echoed the loss of Bruce Lee, sending waves of grief throughout the film community and among fans worldwide. Family friends also felt the pain deeply. Chuck Norris, a prominent martial artist and friend to the Lee family, described Brandon's death as losing a second son and attended the funeral to pay his respects. Those who knew Brandon remembered his kind and energetic personality as well as his dedication to perfecting his craft. Even today, his untimely death is remembered as a heartbreaking loss and a somber reminder of the risks that can exist on film sets. The events that surrounded Brandon's passing have led to increased awareness about safety protocols in the movie industry, but for those who loved him, the absence of both Bruce and Brandon Lee remains a lasting sorrow. Interestingly, Matthew Polly, who wrote a biography of Bruce Lee, presented a different idea about how Bruce Lee died. Instead of the commonly reported story about an allergic reaction, Polly focused on heat stroke as the possible cause. He pointed out that shortly before Bruce Lee's death, Lee had suffered a heat stroke while working in Hong Kong during a hot summer day. After that, Lee decided to have his sweat glands surgically removed from his armpits to look better on camera by avoiding underarm sweat stains. Polly believed that this surgery may have caused Lee to have trouble cooling his body, especially in the humid and overheated environments where he often trained and worked. On the day Bruce Lee died, the weather in Hong Kong was extremely hot, and the room where Lee spent his last hours was not cooled by air conditioning. Polly argued that these conditions could easily have led to a second heat stroke, especially given Lee's reduced ability to sweat. He also highlighted a few signs found at the scene, such as the lack of evidence for a severe allergic reaction and the presence of symptoms like brain swelling, which fit the effects of heat stroke. Polly's theory goes against the original reports, but draws attention to real medical risks related to working in high heat after sweat gland removal. The combination of Bruce Lee's previous health scare, his surgery, and the environmental heat all support Polly's focus on heat stroke as the true cause of Lee's mysterious death. After Bruce Lee had his sweat glands removed from under his armpits, Polly argued that this surgery may have made it harder for Lee to cool his body during hot weather. Normally, sweat evaporates on the skin, helping the body to get rid of extra heat. Since Lee did not have sweat glands under his arms, his body had fewer ways to lower his temperature, especially during physical exertion or when the weather was very warm. There were periods in Lee's life when he experienced heat stroke before his last day, showing that his body had already been struggling to handle extreme heat. On the day he died, a combination of factors may have placed more stress on his system. He took medication, which could have side effects like making it even harder to regulate temperature. In addition, he was reportedly covered with a thick blanket, which would trap even more heat next to his body. The weather was also hot that day, leaving little chance for his body to lose excess heat through normal means. All these conditions together may have triggered the fatal heat stroke that ended his life, with his inability to sweat properly playing a major role, according to this theory. Gradually, details about Bruce Lee's passing became clearer when doctors examined his body. The official autopsy showed something striking: his brain was swollen much larger than normal, by about 133%. This dramatic swelling is a key sign of cerebral edema, which means the brain was filled with too much fluid. Usually, doctors look for things like an allergy or a bad reaction to medicine when someone dies suddenly, but neither of those signs showed up in Lee's body. Instead, the swelling itself could point toward heat stroke. When a person's body overheats and cannot cool down properly, it pushes extra fluid into the brain, leading to swelling like what Lee experienced. Heat stroke is dangerous because the normal cooling system in the body fails, and organs such as the brain get damaged as fluid builds up. The intensity of Lee's brain swelling matches the level often seen when someone suffers from extreme overheating. People who studied this case carefully noticed that, while other medical reasons were considered, the lack of an allergic reaction and the exact type of swelling made heat stroke a likely reason for what happened. This medical detail explains why Bruce Lee's case has remained so fascinating and mysterious for experts and fans alike. Even though doctors knew a lot about his healthy lifestyle and fighting abilities, his sudden death became a puzzle because of the unique findings in the autopsy, especially focused on the connection to heat stroke. Some theories suggest that Bruce Lee's death was not accidental, but orchestrated by the Triads, a powerful Chinese organized crime group. These ideas come from the belief that Lee had conflicts with the Triads, either by standing up against them, being involved in financial disputes, or through personal grudges. People who support these theories argue that the Triads had enough reasons to eliminate Lee because of his rising fame and influence, which could have threatened their control in certain areas. Various methods have been proposed to explain how they might have carried out this plan. One such method is poisoning, where Lee could have been given harmful substances that looked like normal medicine or food, but were deadly. Another more mysterious explanation involves dim make, known as the death touch, a legendary martial arts technique said to cause death or severe injury with precise strikes to vital points on the body. These theories, while never proven, serve to keep alive the idea that foul play was behind the untimely passing of such a martial arts icon. The uncertainty surrounding his death allows speculation to continue, with some people convinced that official stories about the cause of death do not tell the whole truth. Meanwhile, the triad theory surrounding Bruce Lee's mysterious death has intrigued people for decades, focusing on the ancient Chinese martial arts technique known as dim mak, or the death touch. According to this idea, members of the Triad, a secretive crime organization, may have used this lethal method against Lee, causing his sudden internal damage or death without obvious external injuries. People supporting this theory often mention that Bruce Lee had previously received death threats, which adds to the atmosphere of suspicion and fear around his final days. On the day of his death, several details seemed off, including the unexpected bruising and unexplained needle marks found on his body by those who examined him. Supporters of the theory believe these signs pointed to more than a simple medical emergency. They argue it was proof of a hidden attack intended to remove Lee because of his connections or actions that may have angered powerful groups. The narrative suggests that the Triad's knowledge of pressure points and secret techniques like dim mak allowed them to inflict fatal harm in a way that would confuse investigators and hide the real cause. In this view, Lee's demise was not just a personal tragedy, but the result of calculated planning that relied on centuries-old martial wisdom and the determination of criminal powers to silence someone who had crossed their path. The surrounding atmosphere of secrecy, the unexplained symptoms, and the long-standing rumors about organized crime involvement have kept the triad theory and its dim-make accusations alive in the public imagination, fueling speculation and debate among fans and experts alike. Meanwhile, a different story surrounded Bruce Lee's life and tragic death, the tale of the so-called Lee family curse. This theory comes from Chinese folklore and centers on an illness or evil fate that follows certain family lines, passing through generations with the aim of harming its members, especially the men. In Bruce Lee's case, people believe that a dark force haunted the male Lees, causing them to die young or meet violent ends. As far back as Bruce's childhood, his parents worried about the supposed hex on their family. His mother and father did what they could to keep him safe, turning to traditional protective rituals and taboos, sometimes even calling Bruce by a feminine nickname in hopes of confusing spirits and hiding him from harm. Still, fear of the curse remained, coloring many of their decisions during his early life. Later on, when Bruce died suddenly at just 32, despite being known for his strength and fitness, rumors about the curse only grew. People pointed to his unexpected collapse, and later to the shocking death of his own son Brandon in a movie set accident, as proof that the Lee men could not escape their fate. After Brandon's passing, the family's losses appeared too similar and close together to many observers, further fueling speculation. Through the lens of tradition, some insisted the curse had moved from generation to generation, no matter what measures the family took. Others whispered that the Lees, even with their fame and Western success, could never outrun the shadow cast by old beliefs about family doom and supernatural danger. However, the story of the Lee family curse begins deep within the heart of Chinese folklore, where legends and old stories mingle with everyday life, giving rise to ideas that can last for generations. According to some tales, the curse starts with a powerful sorcerer who became angry at the Lee family, possibly because of a feud or a feeling of betrayal. It is said that either a broken promise or a disloyal act stirred up a desire for revenge, and so the curse was spoken, meant to pass down misfortune from parent to child. Over the years, the details blurred, but the idea grew stronger, working its way into the family's history and shaping how others viewed their fate. Some retellings blame family members for disrespecting spirits or ancient customs, which might explain why mysterious or tragic events followed them. In these accounts, supernatural forces seem to linger over each new generation, almost as if fate itself were determined long ago by forces outside their control. Many who repeat the story say the curse creates unease, with its shadow following family members across borders and continents, never quite letting go. Belief in this curse has sometimes affected how people see the rise and fall of the Lees, especially when unusual accidents or early deaths occur, giving new life to an old tale with each retelling. While different stories may disagree on exactly how the curse was created, most agree that betrayal and revenge are at the heart of its power, hinting at a deep human fear about vengeance that stretches from the distant past through all the Lees who followed. At that time, Bruce Lee's parents deeply feared an old curse said to claim the lives of boys in their family. Desperate to shield their son, they came up with several protective measures drawn from tradition and folklore. First, while Bruce was still an infant, his parents gave him a girl's nickname. This was not just a simple act, but a deliberate trick designed to confuse evil spirits who might be searching for a male child. On top of that, they regularly dressed him in girls' clothes, another layer of disguise. They even went as far as piercing his ears, which was not common practice for boys, hoping this would further deceive any harmful spirits by making Bruce appear to be a girl. These acts were not random or done without faith. His parents constantly sought advice from fortune tellers and astrologers, listening carefully to every suggestion offered for Bruce's safety. Every step they took reflected their determination, linking ancient customs and spiritual beliefs with real, everyday care for their son. In those early days, Bruce was a child surrounded not only by love, but also by rituals and cautious strategies to outsmart a fate his parents did not want repeated. Even from the earliest days of Bruce Lee's life, the sense that his story was shaped by forces beyond control was strong in his family. His parents held a deep-rooted belief in fate, what they called Ming, the idea that a person's path was set before birth and could not truly be changed. This belief settled over Bruce's life like a persistent shadow, shaping how his parents saw both the possibilities and dangers that lay ahead for their son. Driven by the conviction that fate had marked Bruce for something extraordinary, perhaps even perilous, they did whatever they could to shield him. They tried little things, from rituals to avoid bad luck, to giving him the nickname Little Phoenix to confuse or ward off spirits who might want to harm him. Still, they understood that no amount of protection could completely change what was already written by destiny. This mixture of anxiety and acceptance was ever present, since their faith in fate meant acknowledging Bruce might always face unique threats, as well as rare opportunities. They did not resist the trials they anticipated for him, but saw them as stepping stones that could not be bypassed. Every encounter, success, or challenge Bruce met was interpreted as both inevitable and significant, part of a larger plan that could never be fully understood in advance. Instead of trying to alter his course, his parents accepted Bruce's coming hardships, believing not only that he would be marked by many who wished him harm, but that these struggles had an appointed place in his life story. In this way, their love for Bruce meant both constant care and steady acceptance of the trials his fate demanded.